Multiplication of integers. NCERT Chapter 1, Class 7, Exercise 1.2. We will be looking for rules for multiplication. Multiplication is repeated addition. So we will now multiply 2 and 3, which will give us 2 plus 2 plus 2 is equal to 2 multiplied by 3 is equal to 6. It is 3 lots of 2. On the number line, we will be jumping 3 lots of 2 towards the positive side. Each jump is towards positive side and we reach 6. 2 into 3 it gives 6. So we say that on multiplying two positive integers, we get a positive integer. Now we multiply 3 into minus 2. On the number line, we will be jumping 3 lots of negative 2. Each jump is to the negative side and we reach minus 6. So 3 multiplied by negative 2 is equal to minus 6. On multiplying a positive integer and a negative integer, we get a negative integer. Now we multiply minus 3 and 2. We will jump 2 in 3 lots towards the negative integers. Each jump is to the negative side and we reach minus 6. So minus 3 into 2 is negative 6. On multiplying a negative integer and a positive integer, we get a negative integer. Now let's look at the pattern. Minus 2 multiplied by 4 is equal to negative 8. We have just studied this. Now minus 2 multiplied by 3 is equal to minus 6. Minus 6 can also be written as minus 8 minus minus 2. This comes out to be equal to minus 8 plus 2 is equal to negative 6. So negative 6 is written as minus 8 minus minus 2. Now this will form a pattern. Minus 2 multiplied by 2 is equal to negative 4 and we also write it as minus 6 minus minus 2, which will come out to be minus 4. Now we continue with this pattern and minus 2 into 1 will again be written as equal to minus 2, or it is minus 4 minus minus 2, and on simplification becomes negative 2. And minus 2 multiplied by 0 is equal to 0. But using the pattern, we write minus 2 minus minus 2 and this will come out to be 0. In this step, we have now two negative integers, minus 2 multiplied by minus 1. So, we look at the pattern above and write 0 minus minus 2. Now this comes out to be 0 plus 2 is equal to 2. Now minus 2 into minus 2, again we look at the pattern and we write 2 minus minus 2 is equal to 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. In the same way, we have to observe the pattern and find out other products. Minus 2 into minus 3 comes out to be 6. From previous steps, because we have written 4 minus minus 2 following the pattern. Minus 2 into minus 4 comes out to be 8 and minus 2 into minus 5 is 10. Similarly, by the pattern, we see that the product of two negative integers here is a positive integer. We multiply two negative integers as whole numbers and the product has a positive sign. Let's take another example. Now we have minus 5 into 4 equal to minus 20. In the next step, we write minus 5 into 3 is equal to minus 15. Now minus 20 is minus 5 into 4. So to get minus 5 into 3, we subtract a negative 5. So this will be equal to minus 20 plus 5 is equal to minus 15. So we've made the pattern. So minus 5 into 2 will be equal to negative 10. Again, the pattern will be minus 15, minus minus 5 and equals minus 10. Again, we follow the pattern. So minus 5 into 1 is equal to minus 5 equals minus 10 minus minus 5. On simplification, it's minus 5. Minus 5 into 0 is 0 and we form the pattern minus 5 minus minus 5, which comes out to be 0. Now we have two negative integers, minus 5 multiplied by negative 1. Here we follow the pattern and we write 0 minus negative 5. This is equal to 0 plus 5 equals 5. Now for this term also we observe the pattern. Minus 5 multiplied by minus 2 will come out to be equal to 10, following the pattern above. Similarly, minus 5 into negative 3 is written as 10 minus minus 5, which will come out to be 15. So here we observe that when we multiply two negative integers, the product is positive. Looking at the pattern, we find minus 5 into negative 4 as equal to 20, negative 5 into negative 5 equal to 25, negative 5 into negative 6 is equal to 30. We see that the product of two negative integers is a positive integer. Now let's multiply the two negative integers on the number line. We multiply 2 and 3 as whole numbers and the product has a positive sign. Minus 2 into minus 3 is equal to 6. On the number line, we will be jumping 3 lots of 2. Each jump is positive and we reach 6. Now rules for multiplication are positive into positive is equal to positive. Positive into negative is equal to negative. Negative into positive is equal to negative. And negative into negative is equal to positive. Now when the sign of two integers is the same, the answer is positive. When the signs of the two integers are different, the answer is negative. Now let us find some products. 3 multiplied by negative 1. A positive integer multiplied by a negative integer will be a negative integer. So minus 3 is the result. Now we have a negative integer and a positive integer. When we multiply these two, we will get a negative integer. So we write minus 225. Now we have two negative integers multiplied together. Two negative integers give a positive product, which is 630 here. Now, two negative integers give a positive product, so we write plus 316. Minus 15 into 0 into minus 18. Here we are multiplying three integers. So let's multiply first two integers first. Minus 15 into 0 is 0. Now we have 0 into minus 18. The product again will be 0. Any integer multiplied by 0 is equal to 0. Minus 12 into minus 11 are two negative integers. The product will be a positive one. So we write 132 and the third integer is 10. Now we have two positive integers. Product of two positive integers is positive. So the product is 1320. 9 multiplied by minus 3 multiplied by minus 6. Here again we first take the first two integers, a positive and a negative integer. The product will be negative, that is minus 27. Now we multiply minus 27 and minus 6. Both the integers are negative, so the product will be positive 162. Minus 18 multiplied by minus 5 multiplied by negative 4. Let us take the first two integers first, minus 18 into minus 5. Product of two negative integers is plus. So we write plus 90 multiplied by negative 4. Now we have a positive and a negative integer. Product of these two will be minus. So we write minus 360. We observe that when the number of negative integers is odd, the product will have a negative sign. Next sum, minus 1 into minus 2 into minus 3 into 4. The first three integers are negative. Let's first multiply all three of them. Minus 1 into minus 2 is plus 2. Plus 2 into minus 3 is minus 6. And product of odd negative integers is negative and multiplied by 4. Now we have a negative and a positive integer whose product will be negative 24. Minus 3 into minus 6 into minus 2 into minus 1. We first multiply minus 3 into minus 6. Two negative integers multiplied will give a positive product, plus 18. Minus 2 into minus 1 will give a product positive 2. Now we have two positive integers, so on multiplication we get 36 plus. We observe that the product of even negative integers is positive. We multiply a by itself n times. It is written as a raised to the power of n. Here a is called the base and n is called the exponent. Now 2 square will be equal to 2 multiplied by 2 is equal to 4. 2 cube is 2 multiplied 3 times by itself. On multiplication gives 8. 2 raised to the power 4 will be 16. 2 multiplied 4 times by itself. 2 raised to the power 5 will be equal to 32. 2 multiplied by 2 5 times. Here we see that a is positive. The product of positive integers is positive. So we write if a is positive, then a raised to the power n is positive. Now let us take a as a negative integer. Minus 2 whole square is equal to minus 2 multiplied by minus 2. Now two negative integers, when we multiply, we get a positive integer. This is product of even negative integers or even power is positive. Now minus 2 whole cube. This is minus 2 multiplied by minus 2 multiplied by minus 2. This is product of odd negative integers or odd powers is negative. So we get minus 8. Minus 2 raised to the power 4 is minus 2 multiplied by itself 4 times. Product of even negative integers, the result is positive. Minus 2 raised to the power 5, product of odd negative integers, and so the product is negative. Minus 2 raised to the power 6, product of even negative integers, so the product is positive. We see that minus 2 multiplied even number of times by itself gives a positive product. If a is negative and n is even, then a raised to the power n is positive. We observe that minus 2 multiplied odd number of times by itself gives a negative product. If a is negative and n is odd, then a raised to the power n is negative. Let's do a story sum now. A multiple choice assignment has 20 questions. So this is given in the sum. Now there are two girls, Shama and Rani. Shama gets 20 questions right. She has no wrong answers. Now for each right answer, 5 points are awarded to a student. So number of points Shama gets is 20 multiplied by 5 equal to 100 points. Rani has answered 20 questions incorrectly. Students lose 4 marks for each wrong answer. So losing marks is a negative integer. So Rani scores -4 multiplied by 20, which is equal to -80 points.